I stood in my dining room in Seattle, watching the shattered glass from my wedding photos spread across the hardwood floor like broken promises, and I knew my daughter's marriage was over. The frame that held that picture had survived 42 years, 3 moves, and my wife's funeral 3 years ago. It took my son-in-law less than 5 seconds to destroy it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It was Thanksgiving morning, and the rain was doing what it does best in Seattle, falling steady and gray. I'd been up since 5, prepping the turkey the way Margaret used to do it. Herb butter under the skin, apple cider brine, the whole 9 yards. It was therapeutic, really, keeping my hands busy. The house felt too big most days, echoing with memories. But holidays were when I felt Margaret's absence most keenly. My phone buzzed around 7. "Dad?" Rachel's voice sounded strained. "Is it okay if Trevor and I come over a little early, before everyone else arrives?" My daughter had a tell. She'd had it since she was 6 years old. When something was wrong, her voice went up half an octave at the end of her sentences, turning statements into questions. "Of course, sweetheart. Everything all right?" "Yeah, fine. We just need to talk to you about something." There it was again. That uptick, that uncertainty. "I'll put the coffee on," I said. They arrived at 8:30. Trevor looked like he hadn't slept, which wasn't unusual lately. Dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed, wearing wrinkled khakis and a polo shirt that had seen better days. Rachel looked worse. My vibrant, confident daughter, who ran her own marketing firm, looked diminished somehow, like she was trying to take up less space in the world. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said, opening the door wide. "Coffee's ready." "Thanks, Frank." Trevor brushed past me without making eye contact. He'd stopped calling me Dad about 6 months ago. I'd noticed. We sat in the kitchen. I poured coffee while Rachel stared at her hands, and Trevor's leg bounced under the table like a jackhammer. "So," I said, sitting down, "what's on your mind?" Trevor cleared his throat. "We need to talk to you about your financial situation." I blinked. "My financial situation? Your house, specifically." He leaned forward, suddenly animated. "It's paid off, right? Margaret's life insurance took care of the mortgage?" A cold feeling started in my chest. "That's right. And it's worth what now? 2 million? 2.5? Trevor Rachel started, but he talked over her. "Capitol Hill address. Good bones. Lot size. Market's hot. You could sell, downsize to a condo, free up a lot of capital." I set my coffee cup down carefully. "Why would I do that?" "Because we're family." He said it like it was obvious. "And family helps each other out." "Trevor, maybe we should." Rachel tried again. "We're in a situation, Frank." His voice had an edge now. "A temporary situation, but we need liquidity fast." "What kind of situation?" "My business. You know, I've been building that tech startup for 3 years. We're so close to breakthrough, but we need bridge financing. Just until our Series B funding comes through." I'd heard about this startup. Trevor had quit his job as a software engineer 2 years ago to pursue it. Something about blockchain and supply chain management. I'd never fully understood it, and I suspected Trevor didn't either. "How much are you talking about?" He exchanged a glance with Rachel. $300,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. $300,000? It's temporary. 6 months, tops. Once the funding round closes, Trevor, no. Rachel's voice was firm. "We talked about this. We agreed we'd just explain the situation, not ask Dad to sell his house." "We don't have a choice, Rach." His voice rose sharp enough that I saw my daughter flinch. "The investors are pulling out unless we show we're committed. This is our future. This is my father's home. It's just a house. He's rattling around in here alone anyway. Wouldn't you be happier somewhere smaller, Frank? Easier to maintain?" I took a slow breath. My therapist had taught me this after Margaret died. Count to 5 before responding when angry. "I appreciate you thinking of my comfort, Trevor. But no. No? This is my home. Margaret and I bought this house when Rachel was 3. She took her first steps in that living room. We planted that cherry tree in the backyard when she graduated high school. I'm not selling." Trevor's face was reddening. "You don't understand the opportunity here. My company is going to be huge. We're talking potential IPO in 3 years." You'd be investing in your daughter's future. If your company is going to be so successful, get a business loan. We've tried. The banks won't touch us without more collateral. That's why we need Trevor. I kept my voice level. The answer is no. I'm sorry you're in a difficult position, but selling my home isn't the solution. He stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This is unbelievable. We're your family. Rachel is your only daughter. And you won't help us? I'm not going to sell my home. Do you know what she's sacrificed for me? For us? She's been carrying the financial load while I build this company. She works 60-hour weeks while I'm trying to create something that matters. And her own father won't help when we need it? Trevor, stop. Rachel stood too. This isn't fair. You promised you wouldn't do this. Fair? You want to talk about fair? He wheeled on her. I've given up everything for this company. My salary, my career stability, my reputation. And now, when we finally have a chance to make it work, your father... Enough. I stood, and something in my voice made Trevor stop. You need to leave. Fine. Yeah, of course. Family means nothing here. He stalked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. But you're making a mistake, Frank. A huge mistake. And when this company goes public and we're worth millions, remember that you chose a building over your daughter's future. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Rachel stood frozen in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry, Dad. I told him not to ask. I told him it wasn't appropriate. I pulled her into a hug. She felt small and fragile. Nothing like the fierce little girl who used to climb trees and skin her knees and laugh at thunder. How bad is it? I asked quietly. I don't know anymore. He won't show me the books. He says it's complicated, that I wouldn't understand the funding structure. But Dad, I'm scared. He's been so stressed, so angry all the time. And he's drinking more. How much more? A bottle of wine most nights, sometimes whiskey after. He says it helps him think, helps him deal with the pressure. The cold feeling in my chest spread. Rachel, I know what you're going to say. But he's my husband, for better or worse, right? This is just a rough patch. Once the company stabilizes, if it stabilizes, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. He loves me, Dad. He's just stressed. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her that love doesn't come with conditions, doesn't involve screaming at your father-in-law on Thanksgiving morning. But I'd been married long enough to know you can't tell someone their relationship is broken. They have to see it themselves. Do you still want to stay for dinner? I asked instead. She nodded. If that's okay. My brother's coming, and Trevor's parents, and... Of course it's okay. This is your home too. She hugged me again. Thank you. And Dad, thank you for saying no. I was afraid you might actually consider it. After she left to go pick up the pies she'd made, I stood in my kitchen and tried to shake the feeling that something worse was coming. Thanksgiving dinner was tense but civil. Trevor showed up with Rachel, smelling like beer and mouthwash. He barely spoke, pushing food around his plate while my son David tried to keep conversation flowing. Trevor's parents, nice people from Spokane who I'd always gotten along with, seemed confused by their son's mood. Everything all right, honey? Trevor's mother asked him at one point. Fine, Mom. Just thinking about work. On Thanksgiving? She laughed. You need to relax more. You look exhausted. Some of us are trying to build something that matters. The table went quiet. David cleared his throat. So, Dad, how's that woodworking project coming? The cabinet for Mrs. Henderson? I latched onto the lifeline my son threw me, and we made it through the rest of dinner talking about safe subjects. The Seahawks, the weather, David's kids and their school plays. Trevor left without saying goodbye. That was Thursday. Friday morning, I was in my workshop in the basement, sanding down a drawer face, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Holloway? This is James Chen from Pacific Northwest Appraisals. I'm outside your property at 1847 Belmont Avenue. We had an appointment scheduled for 9 a.m. I set down my sandpaper. I didn't schedule any appointment. Oh, a pause. I have a work order here from a Trevor Sutton. He said he was calling on your behalf. Property assessment for potential sale? My hands clenched. Mr. Chen, I did not authorize this. I'm not selling my property. And Trevor Sutton had no right to schedule an appraisal. I see. Well, that's awkward. I'm sorry for the confusion, Mr. Holloway. I'll make a note in the file. After I hung up, I stood there for a long moment, trying to process what Trevor had just tried to do. He'd scheduled an appraisal, without asking, without permission, like he'd already assumed I'd changed my mind, or maybe didn't care whether I agreed or not. I called Rachel. Dad? What's up? Is Trevor there? No. He went to his office. Why? I told her about the appraiser. Silence on the other end. Then, he did what? Rachel, I think we need to talk. Really talk. About what's going on with Trevor. Yeah, we do. Can I come over? Please. She arrived 30 minutes later, and this time she came alone. We sat in the living room, the room where she'd taken her first steps, where we'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and all the ordinary moments that make a life. Talk to me, I said. The whole truth. She took a shaky breath. I don't know where to start. Start with the money. How much debt is he actually in? I don't know the exact number. He won't tell me. But Dad, I think it's bad. Really bad. Our credit cards are maxed out. We got a notice that we're behind on the mortgage. And last month, I found out he took a second mortgage on our house without telling me. My stomach dropped. Rachel, I know. I should have told you. But I was embarrassed. And he kept promising it was temporary, that the funding was coming through any day, that I just needed to trust him and keep things afloat for a little while longer. How long has this been going on? 2 years. Maybe longer. The first year, it was small stuff. He'd ask me to cover his car payment, or put groceries on my card. I thought it was normal startup growing pains. But then it kept getting worse. And he started getting angry when I asked questions. Has he hurt you? No, nothing like that. He just yells, throws things sometimes, punches walls. Last week he put his fist through our bedroom door. Rachel, that's domestic violence. It's not. He's never touched me. He's just frustrated and, sweetheart, please listen to me. Punching walls, breaking things, intimidating you, that's violence. It doesn't have to be physical to be abuse. She was crying now, hard sobs that shook her whole body. I moved to sit beside her, putting my arm around her shoulders. I feel so stupid, she gasped. I'm a successful businesswoman. I run a company. How did I let this happen? It's not your fault. But I ignored all the signs. The drinking, the secrecy, the mood swings. I just kept thinking if I was supportive enough, if I was patient enough, if I believed in him enough. This isn't about you not being enough. This is about Trevor making bad choices and refusing to be honest about the consequences. She pulled away, wiping her face. What do I do, Dad? What do you want to do? I don't know. I love him, or I loved who he used to be. I don't even know anymore. She laughed bitterly. Do you know what he said last night after everyone left? He said you were selfish, that you were sitting on a fortune while your own daughter struggled, that you cared more about a house than your family. Do you believe that? No, of course not. But Dad, I'm scared. I'm scared of what he'll do if I leave. I'm scared of starting over. I'm scared I'll never trust anyone again. Fear is normal. But you can't let it paralyze you. Is that what you tell yourself? About being alone after Mom died? The question caught me off guard. Sometimes. It's different, but yeah. I was terrified after Margaret passed. Terrified of being alone, of forgetting her voice, of messing up without her guidance. But I learned something. Being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel small. She nodded slowly. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But Rachel, you can stay here anytime. This door is always open. I know. Thank you. After she left, I tried to focus on my woodworking, but my mind kept circling back to Trevor. The appraisal he'd scheduled without permission. The manipulation. The financial mess he'd dragged my daughter into. I should have trusted my instincts. I should have known things would get worse before they got better. They got worse on Sunday. I'd spent Saturday in the workshop, finishing Mrs. Henderson's cabinet and trying not to worry. Rachel had texted to say she was okay, that she and Trevor had talked, that things were complicated but manageable. I didn't like the sound of that, but I couldn't force her hand. Sunday afternoon, I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. I opened it to find Trevor, and immediately knew something was very wrong. He was drunk, not buzzed, not tipsy, but fall-down drunk at 3 in the afternoon. His eyes were bloodshot, his shirt was on backwards, and he could barely stand straight. "We need to talk," he slurred. "Trevor, you're intoxicated. Go home. This is about home. Your home. That you won't sell, even though your daughter needs you to. We've had this conversation. The answer hasn't changed. But it has to change." He pushed past me into the house. I caught the stench of whiskey and sweat. "Don't you understand? I'm out of options." The investors pulled out. "The bank's calling in loans. We're going to lose everything." "That's not my responsibility." "Not your," he laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "She's your daughter, your only daughter, and you're letting her go down with my ship. Trevor, you need to leave. Now. Make me." We stood there in my entryway, facing off. I'm 65 years old, but I'm not a small man. Years of construction work before I retired left me solid. Trevor was drunk and unsteady. If it came to it, I could handle him, but I didn't want it to come to that. "Please," I said quietly, "just go home. Sleep this off. We can talk when you're sober." "No." He stumbled toward the living room. "No more waiting. No more asking nicely. You're going to hear what I have to say." He picked up a framed photo from the mantel. It was from Rachel's wedding day. Margaret and I, standing with Rachel and Trevor, all of us smiling. Margaret had been in remission then, though we didn't know the cancer would come back 6 months later. "Look at this," Trevor said, waving the frame. "Look how happy we all are. But that was before. Before you decided a house was more important than family." "Trevor, put that down." "Why? Afraid I'll break it? Afraid I'll damage something precious?" "It's not about the frame. It's about what you're doing to yourself. To Rachel, you need help." "I need money." "Why won't anyone understand that?" He turned, and the frame slipped from his hands. I watched it fall, watched it hit the hardwood floor, watched the glass shatter into 1,000 glittering pieces. For a moment, we both stared at it. Then Trevor laughed again. "Oops." Something snapped in me. "Get out." "Or what?" "Or I'm calling the police. You're drunk, you're trespassing, and you just destroyed my property. I will have you arrested." "You wouldn't do that to Rachel." "I'd do that for Rachel. She deserves better than this. Better than you treating her like an ATM. Better than you drinking yourself stupid on Sunday afternoons. Better than a husband who pressures her father to sell his home to cover your gambling debts." Trevor's face went pale. "What?" "You heard me. You think I haven't been looking into your tech startup? I called your old business partner, Mark Chen. He told me everything. How you mortgaged Rachel's car to buy cryptocurrency. How you gambled it all on margin calls. How you're not building a company. You're digging a deeper hole every day. Mark had no right. Mark was worried about you. But you know what? I'm not. I'm worried about my daughter. I'm worried about what your addiction is doing to her. And I'm done enabling it." "Enabling?" Trevor's voice rose to a shout. "I came to you for help. And you—" He grabbed another frame, my wedding photo, and I knew what was coming. I tried to reach it first, but Trevor was closer. He raised it above his head like a weapon. "Trevor, don't." The crash was louder this time. The frame was older, heavier, hardwood, and thick glass. It exploded across the floor, and suddenly there was blood. Trevor had cut his hand on the glass. He stood there, staring at his palm as red dripped onto Margaret's face in the broken photo. That's when Rachel appeared in the doorway. I don't know how long she'd been there. Long enough, apparently. Long enough to see her husband drunk and bleeding and surrounded by broken glass in her father's living room. Rachel Trevor started. "Get out." Her voice was ice. "Baby, please let me explain." "Out!" She screamed it, and Trevor flinched. "Get out of my father's house. Get out now." He stumbled toward her, leaving bloody footprints. "It's not what it looks like. You're drunk at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. You broke into my father's home. You destroyed family photos. What exactly am I supposed to think this looks like? I was trying to make him understand. We need that money, Rach. We need it. No, she shook her head. You need it. For your gambling. For your cryptocurrency schemes. For whatever lie you're telling yourself this week. That's not fair. Mark called me. Her voice cracked. Your old business partner. The one you said was jealous of your success. He called me yesterday and told me everything. About the crypto. The margin calls. The lies. Trevor's face crumpled. Baby, don't call me that. Don't call me anything. Just get out. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. A hotel. Your parents. Back to whatever bar you came from. But you can't come home. Not like this. You're kicking me out? I'm saving myself. He stood there for another moment, swaying, blood dripping from his hand. Then he turned and stumbled out the door. We heard his car start, heard him peel out of the driveway too fast. Rachel pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. He's too drunk to drive. She made the call, gave them Trevor's license plate and description, told them which direction he'd headed. Then she hung up and sank onto my couch, staring at the broken glass. I'm sorry, she whispered. You have nothing to apologize for. Your wedding photo, Mom's photo. Photos can be reprinted. You can't. She started crying again, and I sat beside her, holding her while she sobbed. Outside, the rain kept falling, washing Seattle clean. The police called 20 minutes later. They'd pulled Trevor over half a mile away. DUI arrest. His blood alcohol was twice the legal limit. Good, Rachel said when I told her. Maybe that'll finally be the wake-up call he needs. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. Over the next week, things happened fast. Rachel filed for legal separation. She moved back into her old room upstairs, the one that still had her high school debate trophies on the shelf. She called a lawyer, she called a therapist, she called her bank and separated their accounts. Trevor called and texted constantly, apologizing, begging, promising to change. She blocked his number after day 3. Is it supposed to feel this bad? She asked me one evening. We were sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea, being quiet together. What part? All of it. I thought I'd feel relieved, free. But mostly, I just feel sad. You're mourning. Not just the relationship you had, but the relationship you thought you'd have. The future you'd imagined. That's okay. When does it stop hurting? I thought about Margaret. About the first year after she died, when I'd wake up and reach for her and find empty space. About how that sharp pain had slowly, gradually, turned into something I could live with. It doesn't stop, I said honestly. But it changes. Gets easier to carry. She nodded. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for saying no. On Thanksgiving. If you'd agreed to sell the house, I think I would have convinced myself that everything was fine. That Trevor's problems were solvable if we just had more money. But they weren't about money. No. They were about control. About him making choices he couldn't take responsibility for. About him expecting everyone else to fix his mistakes. You figured that out yourself. I just held the line. Still, thank you. 3 weeks later, Rachel was sorting through boxes of her stuff from the house she'd shared with Trevor when she found his laptop. He'd left it behind when he moved out, probably forgotten in his rush. She opened it out of curiosity, and what she found made her call me down to her room. Dad, look at this. The screen showed banking records, spreadsheets, transaction histories. It was a maze of numbers, but one thing was clear. Trevor had been systematically draining their accounts for over 2 years. Credit card cash advances, personal loans, even money he'd borrowed from friends, claiming it was for Rachel's business. He told them I needed help, she said, her voice shaking. He told everyone our company was struggling, that I was too proud to ask for assistance, that he was doing it for me. There was more. Emails to the appraiser, scheduling not just 1 visit to my house, but 3. Communications with a realtor about listing price and showing schedules. He'd been planning to sell my house, whether I agreed or not, probably planning to forge documents or manipulate me into signing. And at the bottom of a folder, labeled backup plans, there were screenshots of cryptocurrency trades. Yes, but also online poker accounts, sports betting sites, day trading apps. Thousands of dollars, gone in minutes. This is evidence, I said. You need to show your lawyer. I know. She closed the laptop. Dad, did you know? When you said no on Thanksgiving, did you know it was this bad? No. But I knew something was wrong. I knew he was asking you to sacrifice yourself for a sinking ship. I almost let you do it. Almost let you sell this house. But you didn't. And I wouldn't have. This house isn't just an investment, Rachel. It's proof that you can build something that lasts. That there are things worth holding on to even when people try to take them away. She hugged me then, and I thought about Margaret, about how she'd always worried about Rachel, worried she'd trust the wrong person or sacrifice too much for love. I wish Mom was here, Rachel said. She is. She's in this house, in these rooms, in you and how strong you're being. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing the hard thing anyway. Trevor went to rehab after his second DUI. His parents paid for it, and he sent Rachel a letter from the facility. She showed it to me. It was full of apologies and promises and blame. Blame for stress, for pressure, for me not helping when he needed it. He still doesn't get it, she said after reading it. No, maybe someday he will, but that's not your responsibility. Do you think I should respond? Do you want to? She thought about it for a long time. Then she folded the letter and put it in a drawer. No, she said. I think I'm done responding to Trevor's crises. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Rachel got to keep her car, her business, her dignity. Trevor got supervised visitation with consequences, a payment plan for his debts, and a second chance he probably didn't deserve, but might eventually use. On what would have been her 10th anniversary, Rachel and I sat on the back porch, watching the cherry tree bloom. She'd been living with me for 6 months by then, and we'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm. She'd take morning coffee in the kitchen, while I worked in the workshop. I'd make dinner, while she finished work emails. We'd watch Jeopardy and argue about the answers. I'm thinking about looking for my own place, she said. You don't have to. I know. But I think I'm ready. Ready to prove I can stand on my own. You've been standing on your own this whole time. I've just been here to watch. Still, I need to do this. Then I'll help you look. She smiled. Dad? Yeah? Do you think you'll ever date again? Move on from Mom? The question surprised me. I don't know. Maybe. Why? Because I'm realizing something. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to live fully instead of being defined by loss. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. 2 of the best. We sat there as the sun set over Seattle, the cherry blossoms glowing pink in the fading light. Margaret's tree, planted the day Rachel graduated high school. Still standing, still blooming, still proof that some things last if you take care of them. And maybe that was the lesson Trevor never learned. That love isn't about taking what you need. It's about protecting what matters, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Rachel moved out 3 months later. Not far. Just a condo in Fremont, close enough to visit, but far enough to be hers. I helped her move, and on her first night in her new place, she sent me a photo. It was of her living room, boxes everywhere, but hanging on the wall was a picture frame I'd made her. Inside was our family photo from her wedding day. I'd had it restored, the glass replaced, the frame refinished. Her text said, "Thank you for teaching me that some things are worth fighting for. Love you, Dad." I texted back, "Love you too, sweetheart. Mom would be proud." And I meant it, because Rachel had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. That boundaries aren't walls, they're foundations. That you can't save someone who's drowning if they're going to pull you under. Trevor sent her an email a year later. He was out of rehab, living with his parents, working a regular job. He said he was sorry. He said he understood if she couldn't forgive him. He said he hoped she was happy. She told me about it over Sunday dinner. We'd started that tradition, Rachel coming over every week, bringing wine and stories about her dating life and her business. "Are you going to respond?" I asked. I already did. I told him I forgive him for my own sake, not his. that I hope he stays sober and finds peace, that I've moved on and he should too. How do you feel? Free. She smiled. Finally free. We raised our glasses, toasting to freedom and new beginnings and cherry trees that bloom every spring, no matter how hard the winter. And in that moment, standing in the kitchen where Rachel took her first steps, where Margaret taught her to bake cookies, where I'd said no to selling because some things matter more than money, I felt it too. Freedom. Peace. The quiet satisfaction of holding the line when it would have been easier to bend. My house still stands. My daughter still visits. The cherry tree still blooms. And I know that Margaret would say, that's exactly how it should be.